They thought I was failing because I never bragged. In my family, success was loud. It always had been. From as early as I can remember, the people who were admired the most weren't necessarily the ones who worked the hardest or achieved the most. They were the ones who talked the loudest. The ones who filled every silence with stories about what they were building, planning, or about to launch any day now. If you talked big, people assumed you were going somewhere. If you stayed quiet, they assumed you were falling behind. That was the rule. Nobody ever said it out loud, but everyone lived by it. I didn't. I was never the loud one. I didn't interrupt people mid-sentence or dominate conversations. I didn't announce my goals or narrate my life like a press release. I listened. I watched. I thought before I spoke. And in my family, that meant one thing. I must not be doing much with my life. For years, I let them believe that. Family gatherings were always chaotic. The kind where everyone talks at once, voices overlapping, laughter too loud, stories getting exaggerated with every retelling. Someone was always pitching an idea, explaining a plan, or describing a future that sounded just successful enough to be believable. There was applause for ambition, even when nothing came from it. I had a cousin who fit perfectly into that culture. He was confident, charismatic, and never short on ideas. Every year, it was something new. A startup, an app, a real estate opportunity, crypto before it was mainstream, and then again after it crashed. None of it ever really worked out, but it didn't matter. He sounded successful, and sounding successful was what counted. People listened to him. They asked questions. They offered advice. They praised his drive. I sat quietly at the same table, usually ignored. When I did well in school, the response was polite but brief. "That's good," someone would say. Then the conversation moved on. When I got accepted into college, it was immediately compared to someone else's. "Well, it's not Ivy League." "Still not bad." "Not bad." That phrase followed me for years. No celebración, no pride, just quiet acknowledgement, as if my achievements were footnotes rather than milestones. Over time, I learned a lesson that stuck with me. Loud promises always beat quiet progress. So I stopped trying to compete in conversations I was never meant to win. After college, I chose a career path that didn't look impressive from the outside. No flashy job title. No clear explanation you could summarize in one sentence at a dinner table. It wasn't the kind of work people bragged about on social media. It was private, discreet, complex, and it required silence. There were contracts involved, NDAs, conversations that couldn't be repeated, decisions that affected real people and real money. It wasn't glamorous, but it was demanding, and it paid well, very well. But I never talked about it. I didn't post about my work online. I didn't announce promotions. I didn't share wins or complain about stress. I wore simple clothes, drove a normal car, and avoided anything that looked like a flex. To me, work was work, not identity, not content. To my family, that silence confirmed everything they already believed. At gatherings, I'd hear the same question again and again. "So what do you do now?" "I work," I'd say. There'd be a pause. "Oh, got it." And that would be the end of it. Someone else would jump in immediately, louder, more confident, talking about a raise, a new role, a side hustle that was definitely about to take off. People leaned in, nodded, smiled. Sometimes someone would glance back at me and say something like, "You really should be more ambitious." Or, "You can't be shy forever if you want to succeed." Idis mila politeli. I never argued. Explaining yourself to people who have already decided who you are is exhausting. What they never saw was my actual life. The early mornings when my phone started ringing before sunrise. The late nights spent reviewing documents while everyone else slept. The international calls scheduled across time zones. The pressure of making decisions where mistakes weren't just embarrassing, they were expensive. There were weeks when I barely noticed weekends. Months when stress followed me everywhere. Responsibility that didn't disappear when I left the office. But I didn't talk about any of it. Not because I was hiding, because I didn't feel the need to perform. Years passed like this. Quiet dinners, quiet assumptions, quiet progress. And then came my father's milestone birthday. It was a big one. The kind of birthday that turns into an event. A rented venue. Catering. extended family flying in from different states. Speeches planned weeks in advance. Planning was chaotic as always. Budgets were discussed loudly. Costs kept adding up. People argued about details that didn't really matter. At one point, someone pulled me aside. "Hey, any chance you could help out a little? Things are getting expensive." I said yes. I didn't announce it. I didn't ask questions. I just handled it. I coordinated with vendors, took care of logistics, covered gaps quietly, made sure things ran smoothly. No branding, no recognition. No one needed to know. The night of the event arrived. The venue was full. Everyone dressed nicely. Glasses clinking. Laughter echoing off the walls. People posing for photos, capturing moments for social media. I sat at my table, listening more than talking like always. At one point, an uncle leaned over and said half-jokingly, "Well, at least someone in this family really made it," gesturing toward my cousin, who was loudly explaining his latest idea to a group of fascinated listeners. I smiled, took a sip of my drink, said nothing. Later in the evening, the host stepped onto the stage to thank everyone for coming. Standard speech. Gratitude. Compliments. Then he paused. "We'd also like to thank tonight's sponsor," he said. "The person who made this entire event possible." I barely looked up. I assumed it was procedural. Maybe a business owner. Maybe a group effort. Then he said my name. At first, people laughed. Someone whispered, "Did he mess up?" The host repeated it. Slowly, clearly. The room went silent. Every head turned toward me. Confusion turned into disbelief. Disbelief turned into realization. You could almost hear the mental calculations happening. Someone said, "Wait, what?" I stood up, gave a small nod to the host. A brief wave. No speech. No explanation. Then I sat back down. The rest of the night felt different. People approached me cautiously, like they weren't sure how to talk to me anymore. "How long has this been going on? What exactly do you do? Why didn't you ever tell us?" Not one person asked how hard it had been, or what it cost me, or what I gave up to get there. Just why I stayed quiet. Later that night, someone pulled me aside. "You should have told us," they said. "We're family." For the first time in years, I answered honestly. I wasn't quiet because I had nothing going on, I said. I was quiet because no one ever listened. There was no argument, just silence. After that night, everything changed. People treated me differently, with more respect, more curiosity, more expectation. But I didn't change. I realized something important. Silence isn't weakness. Sometimes it's discipline. If you're the quiet one, the one who listens while others talk, that doesn't mean you're behind. It might mean you're building something that doesn't need applause to exist. Some people grow by being loud. Others grow by being consistent. And sometimes the quietest person in the room is the only one who knows exactly where they're going.